Hello and welcome back. Now PRB Investments is going well, but they have some issues with the way they're managing files. Currently, everyone is saving files directly on their desktop, and if they need to share a file to collaborate, what they're doing is they're emailing these files over to one person, and then that person will make a change and then email it back over to the other person. Now doing it this way means that you get multiple versions of the same file, which is not very ideal for a way that a company should be running. Then Bruce Clark reached out to Infotech Nexus just to explain the situation and explain the workflow, and just to ask if there's a better way to do this. And a systems administrator responded and said yes, that they could implement Windows File Services. So there's a service called Windows Distributed File System that can be used to streamline file sharing in an organization. So that's what we will be doing in this video. Okay, let's dive into the video. First, I'm going to log into DC01 as administrator. If you remember from the last video, we transferred all of the FSMO roles from DC01 to DC02. And now what I will do is transfer back those roles over. And you could do this in PowerShell. So I will launch PowerShell as an administrator. And first, I'll run the command netdom query FSMO to confirm the roles are indeed on DC02. Next, I will run the following command, move-ad directory server OperationMasterRole -identity DC01 -OperationMasterRole SchemaMaster, DomainNamingMaster, PDCEmulator, RIDMaster, InfrastructureMaster -force. And then we'll just press A to confirm all of the move. Now, no red text is good text, but if you do get red text, just check the command one more time. You might have a typo in your command. I will add this command in the description below in case if you just need to copy and paste it. Then we will run netdom query FSMO once more, and we can see all the OperationMaster role now belongs to DC01. Now, I did this because if you want to, you could shut down DC02 in case you're running out of resources. Next, I'll head to my C drive and I'll create a new folder called netshare-dc1. Next, I will right-click and go to Properties, then to the Sharing tab, and I'll click on Advanced Sharing. I'll check the box to share this folder, and we could see that it generates a share name for us. Then I'll click on Permissions, and I will grant everyone full control of this folder. Then I'll click on Apply and OK, then Apply and OK once again. Then I will hit Close. Next, I'll head over to Bruce Clark PC, and I'll sign in with Bruce Clark's account. Then I'll head to my File Explorer, and I'll navigate to //172.20.20.20 /netshare-dc1. And you'll see that this does grant us access to the netshare folder that we created on DC1. You could see that I'm able to create a folder called everyone's folder and a file called everyone's file, and I can add text to that file as well. So this works great so far, but it's not a good experience if the user has to manually navigate to DC01's IP address to find their folder. What we can do is map the network drive. So I will right click on this PC, and then I will click on Map Network Drive, and I'll leave the drive letter to be Z. And for the folder, I'll type //172.20.20.20 /netshare-dc1, and then I'll click on Finish. And now we could see that we have an additional location available to us. So instead of manually navigating to the location of DC01, we can simply click on this shared drive and access our shared folder that's located on DC01. Next, I'll sign into Rachel Beck's PC. And I'll also open File Explorer, and I'll navigate to the netshare folder. But instead of using the IP address, I'll use the host name. So you can see the benefit of DNS here. Instead of typing in //172, and the rest of the IP address, I could just type //DC-01 /netshare-dc1, and we have access. Now, if we didn't have a DNS server, using the hostname would not work. It will only work with the IP address instead. Now, inside of the netshare-dc1 folder, I can see the Bruce Clark _ folder and also the everyone's _ file. Next, I'll map the drive, and this time I will use the hostname instead of the IP address. And you can see that we indeed have success. I'll go back into the folder, and I'll create a new folder called Rachel _ folder. And you can see that we're able to add that. Now, I've created a new server called FS-01. FS stands for file server, and I will log into it. Once I'm in, I will add another hard drive to the system. So I will right-click on the virtual machine, then go to Settings, then click Add. Then I will add the hard disk, click Next, leave it as SCSI, and click Next. Leave it to create a new virtual disk, store virtual disk as a single file, change the size from 60 gigabytes to 5 gigabytes or less if you need to. Then I'll select the location for my second hard drive and then save it. Then click on Finish, then OK, and wait for VMware to add the second hard drive. And once it's been added, I will right-click on the Start menu, and then I will click on Disk Management. And we can see this one here. I will right-click on this one, click Online, right-click once more, and click Initialize. I'll leave it as GPT, and then click OK. Then I'll right-click on the unallocated space and choose New Simple Volume. Click Next on the Welcome Wizard. We'll leave it to take over the entire space. I'll assign it to the E drive, and I'll leave it formatted as NTFS, and the volume label will be FS_drive2. Click Next, and then click Finish. Then I'll head over to my File Explorer, and then I'll go into my new FS Drive 2, and in here I'll create a new folder called netshare-fs1. And once again, I'll right-click, go to Properties, and then share the folder and give everyone full control. Then I'll save my settings. Back on Bruce Clark's PC, I'll navigate to //fs-01 /netshare-fs1, and we can see that we do have access to this folder. I'll create a new folder called Bruce folder. Then I'll go over to Rachel's PC, and I'll also navigate to the same location, and I'll create a folder here as well called Rachel_folder. Afterwards, I'll map the new location. We'll leave it as the Y drive, and the location is going to be //fs-01 /netshare-fs1. We now have a second map drive. I'll go over to Bruce's PC, and I'll map the drive there as well. Now back on FS01, I'll create a new folder called company_data. And I will also share this out. But this time, for the permission, I will grant everyone full control, but I'll also add Rachel and give her full control as well. And I will add Bruce, but I will give Bruce deny read permissions. Then I'll click Apply, and we do get this warning saying that deny permissions will take precedent over allow permissions. I'll click Yes to continue, and then proceed. Now back on Bruce Clark's PC, I'll navigate to //fs-01_company_data, and you could see that Bruce gets a permission deny message, but he is still able to access the other netshare folder. On Rachel's PC, I can see the netshare folder, and I can also access the company data folder as well. Next, I'll log into DC01, and I'll launch Active Directory Users and Computers. And I will create two new security groups under the groups OU. And before I do anything, I will remove the domain admin group from the share-operations group, just because this gives Bruce Clark more access than he needs. Then I'll create a new group called share-Bruce. And another one called share-Rachel. And I will add Bruce to the share-Bruce group, and I will add Rachel to the share-Rachel group. Next, back in FSO1, I will remove Bruce and Rachel from the company data folder share and permissions. And now we could see that Bruce is able to access the company data folder. Back on FSO1, I will add the share-Bruce group to the net share folder, and I will give it full control. And I will also add the share-Rachel group, and I will give that one deny access. I will save the changes. And now when I head over to Bruce's PC, you can see that I now have access to the folder. And if I go to Rachel's PC, you will see that I do still have access. And the reason for this is because sometimes when you add a user to a security group, sometimes it does take a while for it to take effect. And sometimes you do need to reboot. So I will reboot. And I will log back in once it's done. And now when I try to access the folder, I now have a permission deny message. Back in FSO1, I will navigate to the Bruce folder inside of NetShare, and I will add Bruce and Rachel to the permissions. But when I go to the advanced sharing, I have to check the box to once again share the folder. And when I do that, I'm now able to access the permission tab. For the permissions, I will give Bruce full control. And I will give Rachel deny permission. Then I will do the same thing for Rachel. I will give Rachel full control and give Bruce deny permissions. Now when I head into Bruce's PC and I navigate to //FSO1 and I type enter, I can see I now have 4 shared folders. Remember when we were assigning the permissions for Bruce, we had to share the folder? Well, that's why you're now seeing Bruce and Rachel's folder here. Now, if I try to click on Bruce's folder, you will see that I do have access. And if I try to create a new folder, it works. But if I try to access Rachel's folder, it doesn't work because Bruce has denied permissions. Now, if I go into netshare-fs1 and try Rachel's folder there, you could see that this works. And that's because Rachel's folder inherits the parent permission from the netshare-fs1 folder. But when the folder is shared, the assigned permissions will take effect. Now, back in FSO1, what I'm going to do is I will disable the sharing for both Bruce folder and Rachel folder, just so that we no longer have that extra sharing enabled for us. And I will right-click on Bruce's folder. I'll go to Properties, and I will go to the Security tab. And this is where we can manage the NTFS permission. The Sharing tab is where we manage the FAT permissions. I will click on Advanced, then Change Permissions, then I will disable the inheritance. This means that Bruce's folder will no longer inherit permissions from the netshare-fs1 folder. Then we have 2 options. The first option will keep all of the current permissions, and the second option will remove all of the inherited permissions. I'll choose to convert inherited permissions into explicit permissions on this object. Then I will remove the 2 users group. I will add share-Bruce to this folder. And we will give it modify permissions. I'll click Apply, then OK to save the changes. And just to show you, when I go back into Bruce's folder, I will create another folder called Taxes. And when I go into the Security tab and then Advanced, you could see that this folder inherited the permissions from Bruce's folder. So at first, Bruce folder inherited permissions from netshare-fs1, but we disable that, and now Taxes folder will inherit the permission from Bruce's folder. And next, on Rachel's folder, we'll repeat the same process. I'll go back to the Security tab, and then Advanced, Disable Inheritance, and remove the 2 user groups. And then we'll add the share-Rachel security group, and then we'll save the changes. Next, we'll head over to Bruce's PC. and then we'll try to access Bruce's folder, and we could see that it works. But when we try to access Rachel's folder, we can see that it doesn't work, and we get an access denied message. Even if I try to navigate to //fs-01 and try it there, you could see that we still get that access denied message. Then when we head over to Rachel's PC, and you could see that we can access the Rachel's folder, and we can also create another folder in here just to show that the permissions are indeed working. But for the Bruce's folder, we get an access denied message for that. I'll head over to DC-01, and then Active Directory Users and Computers. Then I will add Rachel to the Share-Bruce security group. Then we'll head back over to Rachel's PC. We'll try to access the Bruce folder, but we see that it still doesn't work because we need to reboot the PC for it to take effect. So we'll do that now. And once it's back up, we see that we now have access to the Bruce folder. And this will still work even if I navigate directly to the //fs-01 and try to access the netshare-fs1 folder and then the Bruce's folder. Next, what I'll do is I'll map the company data folder. We'll see that we currently don't have access. So first, we'll head over to Bruce's PC, and here we're going to map the company data folder, and we'll see that it does work here. And then on FSO1, I want to go to the properties of the company data folder. And then what I'll do is I'll go to the permissions section, and then I'm going to remove the security groups for Bruce and Rachel. And then I'll head over to the security tab. And what I want to do is to add that security group for Bruce Clark here. But before I do that, I want to remove these users security group. But what I'll do is I'll try to do it without disabling the inheritance. And you'll see when I try to do that, I do get an error message here. And what this is saying is basically the permissions are being inherited from the parent folder. So I need to disable the inheritance before I do this. So I'll do that now. I'll disable the inheritance. And once I'm done with that, you'll see that I'm now able to remove the user's security group. And we'll add the Share-Bruce security group. And we'll just give it the basic permissions. I won't add anything extra. Then we'll save our changes. We do get an error here, but it's safe to ignore this for now. Next, what I'll do is I'll go over to Bruce Clark's PC, and I will try to access the company data folder from here. You'll see that we do have access. I can access this folder. But when I try to create a new folder, you will see that we get an error message that the access is denied. And this is because when we add the security group to the folder permissions, we did not give it write permission or modify permission. It just has read and execute permissions, and that's it. And just to double check, I will go over to Rachel's PC, and I will try to access the company data folder as well. And you will see that I am indeed able to access the company data folder. But same idea, if I try to create a new folder, Rachel does not have access either. Okay, so we're done with adding all of our network drives. But if you look at how we did this, we had to map every drive manually. Now, this isn't too difficult to do, but if you think about if you get new employees and you have to do it this way, it could be very cumbersome, which can be considered a waste of time. We can also automate this with group policy, but I will leave that for another video. And next, what I want to do is I'll go back over to FSO1. We're going to go over to Server Manager, and then we're going to add a new role or feature. We'll skip the first before you begin section. We'll select the server that we want to install the role on. And for the server roles that we want, we basically want to select file and storage services. So we'll expand that, and then we'll expand file and iSCSI services. And the two options we want here is DFS namespaces and DFS replication. So we'll select that, and we'll just add the features that's required to add this role. And then we'll just click next. We won't select any more features. And then we'll hit next one more time, and then we'll hit install. And then we'll just wait for this installation to be completed. Once that is done, we'll click on Tools, and we can see that we now have a new option called DFS Management. We'll open that, and then we'll right-click on Namespace, and we'll create a new namespace. The server will be fs-01. The name of the namespace will be iShare. And I can also click on settings here and make some changes if I want to. Now, it's advised to leave these settings as the default, including the DFS root folder path. So we'll click next and we'll leave this as domain-based namespace, but we can see our location for the new namespace here. Next, we'll review our settings, then we'll hit create, and we have success. And once it's done, I'll close this. I can click into our new namespace, and currently we don't have any target folder. We only have one namespace server, which is FSO1, and then the delegation and search just have the default settings. Now, I'll go back over to Bruce Clark's PC, and I'll navigate to //prbinvestments.local/iShares, and it's working, but it's empty. So let's add some folders in here. Now, back on FSO1, we'll be adding the netshare-fs1 and the company data folder to iShare. I'll right-click on my namespace, and I'll click on New Folder. For the name, we'll call it netshare-fs1. Then I'll click on Add, then Browse, and we could find the netshare-fs1 folder and select. Then I'll click on OK, then OK. And with that, we've just added our first target folder. If I go back over to Bruce Clark's PC, we could see the netshare-fs1 target folder has been added to our iShare namespace, and we can see that it does retain the permissions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the location, and I will map a new drive. So we'll use letter S for our drive, and I'll paste the location in the folder field, and then I'll click on Finish. And now we have the iShare namespace map as a network drive. And as you could see, it's the same as the other netshare folder that we mapped earlier. So what I could do is I could right-click and disconnect this one since we don't need two folders with the same location. Now I want to remap the iShare folder. And the reason why I want to do that is because when I mapped it the first time, I pointed it to the netshare-fs1 location, and I just want to map it directly on the root of iShare. So what I'll do is I'll go back to File Explorer, I'll right-click on this PC, and then I'll map a network drive. And when I do it, I'm just going to type in //prbinvestments.local/iShare, and that's it, the root of iShare. And then I'll click OK. And once I'm done that, I'm just going to disconnect the other share that I created. Next, we'll add the company data folder as a target. So once again, in FSO1, we'll right-click on the namespace, new folder. We'll call it company data without the space. To show you that the name between the folder and the target doesn't need to be the exact same, then I will add the folder target, select company_data, and then I will complete the task. We now have our company data folder added to our namespace for easy access. And with that, I will disconnect our company data folder. So I could just go into iShare and access both folders from here. And lastly, we'll add the netshare-dc1 folder to be a target as well. Now, netshare-dc1 is on another server, but with DFS, we could add the shared folder from any location as long as we have access to it. So I will right-click, new folder, and the name will be netshare-dc1. And I will add the path //dc-01/netshare-dc1, and then I will complete the task here. And then if I go back to Bruce Clark PC, we will see that we have netshare-dc1 in our namespace. Okay, so this was just a very basic introduction to Windows Distributed File System, or DFS. You could really see the power of having this service enabled in your infrastructure. Imagine if you had like over 100 file servers across the country, and every user needed access to different drives from different locations. You could use DFS to really streamline giving these users access to those drives. And also it's much easier to control the permissions. Imagine having over 100 different network drives mapped to every user. That could be chaotic, it could be really tough to troubleshoot, and it could be very confusing for the user as well. Just having one network drive and having all the folders in here that the user could access, and you could also pick and choose which folder you could grant the user access to. It's just much easier and a much better experience overall for the user.